Yeah, Carmine, I'm not going to say that I have favorites, but this Crater crowd is really hard to beat. Apparently, also, it's a blackout tonight. I did not plan this.
Tyler, me and Milt are convinced you did not plan that wardrobe. You mentioned the Crater stars there, Caden Lassiter, Javon Smith. What's their dynamic between the two been like so far?
That's right, Carmine. You know, I spoke with both of those guys earlier before they started warming up. Javon Smith's still new. He's still getting used to it. You know, the hardest part for him, he said, is reading some of those plays. Usually you see a wide receiver lean on their quarterback. He said he's been really leaning on Caden Lassiter. Lassiter said he's been playing with Smith for the last 10 years. He's confident in what he can do. He thinks he'll only get better, and they're excited to see how they can develop in the next 2 weeks to get ready for Thurston, who we talked about at 5. They're a powerhouse. Coach took a very humble approach to our conversation earlier, but he's been coaching for the last 6 years. So I asked him, well, what makes this team so much different than the teams in years previously? And he said, honestly, I don't really know. Maybe it's the fact that these guys have had to go through some pretty tough times the last 2 years when you take everything into consideration. And it's those tough times that usually bring teams closer together. Records don't necessarily mean anything. And we heard it earlier. South's head coach Bill Singler has been through 23 of these matchups. So I asked him, hey, coach, do you have a favorite matchup memory? And he chuckled like Coach Bill Singler usually does. And he said one year really stood out among the rest, and that was 2002. But, it's worth it when you get to cover teams like this. And let me tell you something about small town. I talked to head coach Dennis Dunley yesterday. He's been here since 92, technically, when he went to school here. He's been head coach since 99. I called the school on Wednesday to get a hold of him, and the principal himself picked up the phone. But what's funny, Principal Jamie, he's actually Coach Dunley's brother-in-law. Coach Dunley has his sons on the team.
A tough loss last week for Crater in their home opener, losing to Mazama by 28. But tonight was a different night for the Comets. They needed a win, and man, talk about a last-minute nail-biter. I mentioned last week, rough game for the young QB Shane Wood. So what did the Comets do? They put in Javon Smith, senior wide receiver who's never once played QB before. Well, Carmine, it was a great atmosphere at Spiegelberg tonight for a great rivalry, like Chris just mentioned, and this all-time series is incredibly close. North Medford with 18 wins, South Medford with 17 wins. And we start with the Wolverines' first drive. They decide to go for it on 4th and long, and I'm betting they wish they didn't. That's Caden Lassiter with the pick. Takes this one about 70 yards, followed by his meteor shower. Touchdown Crater. And later in the first quarter, Willamette, they try to recover. Quarterback Ryan Prescott heaves it up. That's Benjamin Yarno with the over-the-shoulder reception. That puts the Wolverines closer to a scoring drive. But Prescott to Yarno again. And this time, it's Jaden Andre who's right there to break it up. And Scott Price, who's right there to catch it. Quick hands. We talked a lot about those defensive takeaways for Crater. This first half was an excellent example of how to keep the momentum going. With a big throw downfield, Alaric Cosgrove comes down with it just shy of the goal line. Fans go crazy, but the Honkers stop them there on the 2 and take over on downs. Head coach Ryan Moss had a lot of praise for this guy right here, Gavin Patterson. And no wonder why. Patterson takes it from the 2 all the way to the Chieftains 40, now in enemy territory with a chance to score. And again, Benny Alves gets his pass picked off. That's Cosgrove, this time with the takeaway. He's just making receptions for both teams now.
Not even out here on the field yet warming up, but some of the students who are here setting up are the students who make the magic happen on this scoreboard here. And I had a chance to catch up with them earlier today to get a closer look into seeing how that magic happens.
We call it CESPN, and it's Crater Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. We took it off of some really small, tiny network that's out there and thought it would be pretty fun.
It's a class Mike Rogan had the chance to start about 5 years ago when the new scoreboard was first installed at Crater. When you think sports and game day, part of the excitement that comes with the entire production is what Rogan teaches these students.
These guys give up their Friday night football to present a product to their classmates, and to me that's so unselfish and really, really cool. They are the behind the scenes thing that makes it happen.
And it's a whole production. They arrive over an hour before kickoff. They have the control operations room in the storage shed, and that's where they control everything from touchdown graphics to even my own special welcome they surprised me with. They have students filming on each end zone and on the sidelines for those epic replay moments too.
I remember when I first started, it was cool just being up on the tower and just seeing the football field from right above, and then even just being on the field with a camera, being able to see it from that perspective and not in the stands.
Rogan said he's hoping to get more students interested in taking the class. And you guys, you are familiar with it. There's a lot of moving parts, but it's exciting. It's what makes game day game day. There's nothing quite like a hometown rivalry. And for over 30 years, North and South have been going at it. Trust me, some of these students have already started their trash talking. This year, though, we have a veteran, 24-year head coach Bill Singler facing first-year head coach Nathan Chin for North, and I had a chance to catch up with both of them yesterday ahead of tonight's matchup.
Over half of your career has been spent at this program, and the kids are gearing up for this crosstown rivalry, so to speak. What's been the most special part about having this rivalry?
I think the greatest thing about it is it's really great for the schools. You know, it brings out a lot of spirit.
It's a really cool week for this town.
You know, it gets the students all pumped up about going to the game and supporting their team, and you know, the community can get involved, whatever team you root for.
Well, that's one of the most unique parts about this stadium. Spiegelberg's shared by both North and South. So when you guys do play each other, one team has to kind of have the away feel, and this year it's you guys. Yeah. Is there any plus or minus to kind of being on the home side, away side?
We really don't mind being the away team, because the fans are right on you. They're right on top of you over on that side. You don't have the wall like you do on this side, and so you really get the emotion of the game, the passion of the game from the students, from the fans on that sideline.
The last 2 seasons have been tough when you take into consideration COVID, and then the way practices had to be shifted because of, you know, the smoke and everything. When you hear adversity and facing adversity, how do you think that applies to your team?
You know, those are the life lessons that football and sport and activities can teach outside the classroom.
I think all Southern Oregon teams have handled this adversity really well. You know, that's a tribute to all the administrators and all the head coaches in this valley, just trying to find ways for these kids to have an opportunity to play the game that they love.
I think our kids have really learned a lot about themselves, especially during this time.
What has this year taught you? What are one of those lessons that you learned?
Just to hang in there, just to, you know, keep battling yourself.
And Carmine, when we talked about adversity and how the players have responded to it, Singler said he was really impressed with how his seniors gave their senior speeches to the rest of the team, saying their message was really, if there's anything we hope you guys learn from us, it's how to work through tough times and use those to create lessons.